So let's begin with the number 11 pick of the 2025 NFL Draft. San Francisco's 49ers select, in my opinion, Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas. The 49ers lost 17 players in free agency, notably Travarius Ward over to, I believe, the Indianapolis Colts. And now with Robert Saleh back as the defensive coordinator, the 49ers are expected to use more of a quarters-heavy defensive scheme. Well, who falls in beautifully to that zone coverage quarters scheme? Well, that's my man Jahdae Barron, who's actually very proficient in both man and zone coverages. He also has an incredibly high football IQ, which does make him an ideal fit for this situation. Because the 49ers also had one of the worst allowed separations in the NFL last year. So they need to work on their back end. You lost a key playmaker. You have a bunch of young guys there, but to secure depth and potentially get a starter for the defensive back, I think Barron will be a beautiful pickup for you. Last year, he allowed a 54.4% completion percentage. He allowed 0 touchdowns and picked off quarterbacks 5 times. And amongst cornerbacks in 2024, he was 5th in forced incompletions, 2nd in tackles, and 10th in missed tackle percentage. You got to get a secure starter. A lot of people think that Barron is the number 1 cornerback in this draft over Will Johnson, so I think you get a steal here at number 11 for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's go on to the next one. Number 12, the Dallas Cowboys. I got them selecting Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. I think you desperately need a wide receiver opposite of CeeDee Lamb. And with a guy who's 6'5" with great agility and acceleration for his size, I think this will be a beautiful pickup. Now, he's not the most explosive receiver. I think that'll be more of a Michael Golden. I think Tetairoa McMillan could be a beautiful piece because he has very fluid movements. He has incredible route running IQ. And I think with Dak Prescott, you need to have another talent to help him out because we've seen Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb do okay. Not great, but just okay. I could see them going running back, but I still think with Ashton Genty gone, you would have to reach on Henderson or Hampton at the number 12 spot. And because we're not doing trades, I can't say any of these teams trade back, which maybe makes sense if you don't like Tetairoa McMillan or he's gone and you want to fill out a running back spot. But when it comes to Tetairoa McMillan overall, though, he was 7th in deep catches, 4th in deep yards. Again, another deep ball threat. He won't get speed, but he will secure in those deep catches because he has incredible hands. He was 3rd in contested catches last year. And what's beautiful about him is he has experience in actually multiple spots on the field, out wide, in the slot, which allows the Cowboys, with a very young coaching staff, 15 first-time coaches with the Dallas Cowboys, 5 of which it's their first coaching experience in the NFL. You need a guy who could fill in any position that you need him to, and I think that's Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. Let's go to number 13 pick. There's a little bit of controversy because of today's news. Does the Jalen Ramsey potential probable trade change my outlook for this pick? I'm going with no. I still have them picking Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. The Dolphins desperately need help on the offensive line. Armstead retired, so you have a massive gap in Tua Tagovailoa's blind side. And he is probably the most concussion-prone quarterback or player I have ever seen while I've been watching the NFL. So if you have an extremely injury-prone quarterback, and I think, honestly, concussion's probably more severe because it's your brain, you desperately need a tremendous blindside tackle. I guess in this case, no, it wouldn't be a blindside because he's left-handed. But still, you want to have a tremendous tackle helping you out on the edge anyway. And I think that's Will Campbell, who is widely regarded as the best tackle in this draft. His college career, he started all 38 games over 3 seasons at LSU. That's 2,553 snaps. 4 sacks allowed, 13 QB hits, 32 hurries. That's not bad when you're starting every game. So he's dependable, he's reliable, and you desperately need that. He was also last year 10th in pass block efficiency. So I think he is going to be a tremendous piece if the Dolphins do select him, and I think they should. He has incredible pre-snap awareness, calling out plays, calling out coverages. It's going to be a beautiful thing to watch on the offensive line. He has outstanding footwork and balance and posture. I think he would help out too in that offensive line, who really was not great last year. I think the Dolphins could take many routes. I think if Barron is available at number 13 or Will Johnson, you could pick him. But as my mock draft currently stands with those players gone, you need to fill in that hole with Armstead gone and retired. He is a left tackle, but I think he could also move in guard if you want to look at a tackle later on in the draft. I think he can play any position really on the offensive line. I got Will Campbell at my number 13 pick for the Miami Dolphins. Number 14, the Indianapolis Colts. Let's go with an interesting pick because one player already is gone. I got another tight end, Colson Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. Loveland is probably one of the most premier route-running tight ends in this draft. I would say he's obviously number 2 behind Tyler Warren. He's capable of lining inline, in the slot, out wide. I think that just increases the production value of Loveland, and especially drafting him. What, is 2 tight ends in the top 15? Has that ever happened in NFL history? I don't think so. The top 25, I think it's been decades probably since that's happened. But I think that with his skill set, with his ability, and with this offense, you could desperately use Loveland at the tight end position. And I think that the fact that he's 6'6" with long arms and an incredible catch radius, you're going to need that incredible catch radius and that height when you have Anthony Richardson, who can't complete a pass beyond 25 yards, and he only completes half of those. And also Daniel Jones, who's a dink and dunker. So you're going to need a guy who could put up a lot of production when it comes to short, or even when it comes to just going downfield, being productive down the field. So I think he's going to be a beautiful pickup for the Indianapolis Colts, who already have a wide receiver core if Loveland does get picked. Full of Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, and you add Colson Loveland into this group, you have a competent quarterback. I think people will be picking the Colts to win the AFC South just based on that, just based on the weapons you have around what should be a competent quarterback if you did have one. But I think that Loveland, regardless of who the quarterback is week 1, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, Loveland is a massive pickup and a massive help for Shane Steichen and this Indianapolis Colts offense. I got him at number 14. Let's go to number 15, which is the Atlanta Falcons. Give me Shemar Stewart, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. Now, this was just embarrassing last year for the Atlanta Falcons. Their pass rush was abysmal. You traded for Matthew Judon, and it didn't help whatsoever. So that's what the Falcons have been over the course of the past couple seasons. They have struggled massively in generating consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks, ranking last in the NFL in QB pressure rate since 2019. And last year, they were 31st in quarterback pressure percentage and tied for last in sack percentage with the New England Patriots, who everybody thought they had a great defense. Well, they did 2 years ago when they were the 7th best. Last year, they weren't great whatsoever, and that's most likely what propelled Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf to pursue a bunch of really key defensive pieces in free agency. But when it comes to Shemar Stewart, he is incredibly athletic. He has an insane amount of athleticism. He got a perfect 10.0 relative athletic score, which placed him among some of the top edge rushers, top defensive ends and edge rushers since 1987. When you get a perfect score, I'd say it's a pretty good draft pick for you, especially for a team that has struggled mightily against generating pressure. And at Texas A&M, he had incredible ability to line up on multiple positions along the defensive line. You can use him out wide. You can use him in the interior of the defensive line. You can use him all over. It gives Atlanta a very, very versatile and valuable asset on your defensive line for a defense that has struggled against, like I mentioned, generating pressure, and that's what the Falcons need. You have Michael Penix. You need your defense to perform better, and that starts with getting a decent pass rush and potentially generating some key turnovers in games. Let's go to the next pick, which is number 16, the Arizona Cardinals. Again, another very hard one to choose. I'm going with defensive lineman Derek Harmon out of Oregon at 6'5", 313 pounds with an 83 3/4 inch wingspan. He is a prototypical build for an NFL interior defensive lineman. He has a quick initial burst off the line, which allows him to penetrate gaps and disrupt plays in the backfield, which is key for the Cardinals defense, which has not been good for several years at this point. Yes, they signed a couple key pieces and they got Calais Campbell back, but you need a guy who is the future of your defensive line, which Harmon, I think, will be absolutely. He anchors very well on double teams. He maintains gap integrity, and he does great against stunting run defense. That's the big thing. You got to have a good running defense, which then force them to play one way, and that's the big thing. We can take a look at some of the terrible teams in the NFL over the past couple seasons. Like, for instance, everybody knew if you stop the Bengals from running the football, they're going to have to pass, which generates lackluster offense because you know what's coming. The Cowboys had no running game to start the season, so it was all up to Dak Prescott to make plays happen. When you have an average quarterback, guess what? It's going to expose you. It's just what's going to happen. It's going to expose you of an average quarterback. So having that defensive interior lineman to generate those pressures, stop the run, will help out the entire team, really, especially that defense, which in part helps out Kyler Murray offensively. And when it comes to Harmon, statistically last year, he had 45 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and led all FBS interior linemen with 55 quarterback pressures. The Cardinals need someone on defense to generate those pressures, and this guy could be the future of your defensive line. I got Derek Harmon at number 16 to the Cardinals. Number 17, the Cincinnati Bengals. What do they do? After a free agency full of spending on 2 players, you need to draft defense, and I got Walter Nolen, defensive lineman out of Ole Miss. Obviously, as everybody knows, the Bengals need defense. They cost a lot of games last year because of their lackluster defensive performances. One, for instance, you let Derrick Henry in overtime run 51 yards to set up a game-winning field goal after your rookie punter botched the field goal snap. Not great. You spent an incredible amount of money on 2 players in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Now, I think it's completely deserved and honestly, the smart thing to do, keep Joe Burrow happy. But you also have to deal with Trey Hendrickson as well, who, by the way, still wants out. He still has his trade request out there. And also, Sam Hubbard retires, so that's a key piece you lost in your defensive line. You need another enforcer with B.J. Hill, and I think definitely Nolen could be that guy. But the Bengals rank bottom half of the league in interior pass rush and run defense in 2024, and obviously Nolen will help them out massively and be a key fix for this Bengals defense. I think he has an explosive first step and ability, just like our boy Derek Harmon here, to expose those gaps, generate pressure, and penetrate those gaps, which they have a brand new DC in Al Golden. That kind of fits into what his philosophy is. His schemes often require linemen who adapt to multiple positions along the front, and Nolen has the ability to play both a 3 technique and a 5 technique. Help out the defensive line, help out the defense, allow Joe Burrow to do what he always does. Again, nobody's asking for a top 5, top 10, top 3 defense. You take a look at some of the most successful seasons the Bengals have had in years, and it's with the 14th, the 16th ranked defense. Give them a level of competency. Let Joe Burrow do what he normally does and just perform. Just have the defense help out just a little bit. And this is an AFC championship team. Give him an average defense, not a bottom 5, an average defense, and Joe Burrow will take you, I think, to the promised land. He's not asking for much. He's just asking for an average defense. Most average to good quarterbacks need a tremendous defense. Joe Burrow just needs competency. That's all he needs. Walter Nolen, defensive lineman, Ole Miss. I got him at number 17. Number 18, the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going with Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle out of Texas. Now he's a left tackle. Their problems are on the right side of the offensive line, but with his skill set, I think he can move over onto the right side pretty effectively and still succeed at a massive level. Last year, we thought the Patriots' offensive line was bad. Well, pass block efficiency, which heavily weights on sacks, the Seahawks are actually the worst by, I think, 0.1%. So technically, when you thought about pass block efficiency, the Seahawks had the worst offensive line in the NFL. They had the most pressures, the second most quarterback hurries, and the third most sacks. Geno was getting absolutely killed on the right side of the offensive line. And we just saw what Sam Darnold looked like while under pressure the last 2 games of the NFL season, the last game of the regular season, and then that playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams where he got sacked, 9 times, got murdered, and he was basically seeing ghosts again like he did with the New York Jets. Nearly a third of all pressures Geno Smith got last year were from the right tackle, not the right side of the offensive line. No, one singular position generated nearly a third of all pressures. So you need to secure that spot above anything else, and I think with a guy who's 6'5", 315 pounds, with extremely long arms and has a powerful anchor, you can put him at any position, especially on the tackle spot, help him out, help K9 out in the running game, which, by the way, they were 28th in rushing for 2024. Kelvin Banks has tremendous run blocking ability. To help him out on the edge, help Sam Darnold out, who crumbles under pressure, I think you desperately need to fix that right side of the offensive line. Banks will do that. He played left tackle basically his whole career. But just with his pure skill set and ability, he can move over to right tackle, and I think, and be very, very consistent, because, again, you need to switch up. You need to switch, your technique a little bit. But this skill set, pass blocking, run blocking, you can still do that at a very, very effective level, even though you're on the opposite side of the field. And especially with Kelvin Banks, I think he'll do that at a beautiful level if the Seahawks do draft him. Number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Give me Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. Levante David, he's on his last licks. He's still a tremendous player, but he's on a 1-year contract, and they need a long-term solution at the linebacker position. And I think with Campbell's acquisition, I think that will be immediate depth and potential, maybe Pro Bowler, All-Pro, potentially. I think that will be massive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He could play both as an off-ball linebacker on the edge and also play in the slot, down low, in the box. He could do everything at a pretty high level, I would say, which is very key for the Todd Bowles run team. And especially, here's the big thing. Here's the massive thing. He was 6th in run stop percentage last year. What do we know Todd Bowles' defense of always doing? Stopping the run. So this is a perfect fit for Todd Bowles' defense. He was 5th in pressures last year, 5th in missed tackle percentage, 8th in yards allowed, and 11th in forced incompletion percentage. He could drop into coverage. He could play the run. He could play the pass. He could rush the passer as well, generate some pressures. And I think with his level of athleticism and instincts, I think he could cover tight ends, running backs. If you need him for a quick out route, he could disrupt the passing lane for a wide receiver on a drag or a slant route. I would say Campbell would fit in beautifully with what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been building defensively under Todd Bowles. I got Jahad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama, going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 19. Number 20, the Denver Broncos. Who are they going to pick? I think the obvious one, just with the position that they're at, you desperately need this position. It's going to be a running back. Omarion Hampton, running back at a UNC. Javonte Williams, man, what a fall off. He had some of the worst production and efficiency in the NFL last year for a running back. And with him gone, you desperately need a power back who could carry the load for a physical Sean Payton offense. And I think Hampton fits in that role beautifully and has massive running back one upside. First of all, he's great in zone blocking schemes, which is tremendous for a Sean Payton run offense. I think that's the big thing. He also could cut back lanes and explode downhill. Again, Sean Payton loves that. And also, here's another thing Sean Payton loves. He's a 3-down skill set: pass catching, pass protection, and short yardage. That's everything that Sean Payton needs. I mean, think about who his running back was a couple years ago. Alvin Kamara, who is one of, if we talk about receiving backs or all-around running backs, when it comes to the passing lane and effectiveness in the ground game, Kamara's what, a top 5, top 6 running back in that case? Obviously, CMC when healthy is number 1, but Kamara's going to be up there as well. Sean Payton guy. So I think when it comes to Hampton, he is NFL-ready, built with power and athleticism. He's a physical runner who embraces contact and barrels through you, and I think that he could definitely expand an offense for a Broncos team that relied heavily on running on early downs to set up the passing game for Bo Nix, and you desperately need that running game, especially for a young quarterback who needs an effective offense, who needs some easy things. I think Hampton gives you that playmaking ability to allow Bo Nix to dink and dunk and generate that yardage, push the ball downfield, and this team just went 10-7. It was a tremendous defensive team. I think you added some very key pieces on defense in free agency, but you desperately needed a running back, and I think Hampton at 20, I think you could consider him a steal at this point, in my opinion. So I got Omarion Hampton, running back, UNC, going over to the Denver Broncos at 20. They need a running back. This, in my opinion, is the best one available. Let's go to pick 21. The Pittsburgh. What are they going to do? Because I hinted weeks ago that maybe Shedeur Sanders could fall to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You could argue maybe with TJ Watt throwing up the deuces on social media. Could he be traded away? What is going to be the move? Najee Harris is gone. Are you going to trust Jalen Warren? Could it be back-to-back running back picks? Jaxson Dart, quarterback, Ole Miss. That's my pick. That's my little bit of surprise of the draft, if you want, because currently the Steelers have Mason Rudolph at quarterback, and they're waiting for Rodgers to wake up and sign or go towards the light and just commit to retirement. That's what they're dealing with right now. And I think that when it comes to it, Dart's experience in RPO and play action systems at Ole Miss fits in beautifully with Arthur Smith's offense. And we have to realize, in 2024, Jaxson Dart, he was 6th in adjusted completion percentage, 2nd in big-time throw percentage. And here's something that's big. Here's something that I've talked about that could be at the detriment of maybe some top-tier passing quarterbacks. But for young quarterbacks, Arthur Smith is actually not a bad choice at OC because he never asked his quarterback to do much. In his coaching career, as head coach and as offensive coordinator, his quarterbacks are 28th in pass attempts and 24th in yards on average. His quarterbacks don't need to do much. The Steelers just made it to the playoffs with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and they did basically nothing in the passing game. Nothing where it says, okay, top 10 passer, even top 15, hell, top 20 passing game. That's not what Arthur Smith does. He focuses heavily on the run. So my guess would be, I think the Steelers could have a potential opportunity to draft Jaxson Dart so you have your quarterback of the future and get a solid 7-8 year running back in this draft. Scatterbo, you could get Henderson late in this draft, maybe if he doesn't go in the first round. I think that, and let's say you do get Rodgers. I think that Jaxson Dart learning under Rodgers to refine his game, to perfect his game, because we know Brady has said several times, he has no idea why these young quarterbacks are playing so often. He thinks that the best course of action is for have a quarterback sit behind a veteran to learn the game more. They're coming out of the draft very raw, and we see recently what these young quarterbacks are doing. Anthony Richardson should be on his way out. Trey Lance is a backup for the Los Angeles Chargers, but he was a disgrace with the San Francisco 49ers. The 2021 draft, the only starter is right now Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. Everybody else, Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson even signed to a team right now? I don't think so. Mac Jones is the backup for Brock Purdy. I mean, at this point, it's a disgrace just how bad that draft turned out to be when there was a lot of potential in that draft, at least initially, and this is where we're at right now. So, Jaxson Dart, the Steelers need a quarterback in the future. Rodgers is not going to be your guy for beyond the maximum 2 years. He probably has 1 year left. You need the quarterback of the future. I think you get Jaxson Dart here at 21, and those are my picks. Part 2, the 11 to 21 picks. Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching this clip of the Harvey Hour. If you want to watch the full show, you can by clicking the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to take the show with you on the go, it is available wherever you get your podcast. We go live here on YouTube every single Tuesday and Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell to get notified whenever we upload a video and whenever we go live.